Kia ora, welcome to my art channel. Today I'll be showing you a quick tutorial on how I get this texture on my sculptures. I'll be working on this piece today and we'll be using just a quick easy method of throwing SLAB clay onto the table to create all these beautiful cracks and patterns with a bit of slip over black clay. So let's get into it. Firstly, you want to get some clay and quickly work it into a ball, and then you can roll it out to quite a thick slab. So I actually don't really use my rolling pin very often. I just tend to slap it on the table until I get the right shape. But you can, if you struggle to get an even layer, you can use a rolling pin. And then the first thing we're going to do is, this is some red, very heavy iron slip that I have made. I collected the clay from various places in New Zealand and also added a touch more red iron oxide to get that colour. So I'm just going to brush some of that on. And then you can just leave it to dry, or if you want to speed up the process, you can use a hairdryer or a heat gun. Just until it's mostly dry. It can be a little bit tacky, that's okay. The next thing I'm going to put on it is some sodium silicate. So I take some out of a bigger jar and put it in a small jar because it does get a bit contaminated with brushes and things. And then we'll just take a clean brush and get a little bit. And you can make patterns, or you can just do lines. You can be quite heavy with it in places. You can leave some sections without any as well. And again, you want to use a heat gun or blowtorch to dry it. So you want it to be dry but a little bit tacky. That's fine. And now we're going to slap it against the table to stretch the clay and get those lovely cracks. You want to make sure you don't go too thin. Depends what you're building, so I'm kind of layering my sculpture, so I can go quite thin with this one. It's hard to do it at the right angle for the camera. And you can play around with it, you can experiment different ways to throw the clay and get the different effects you want. See, that's a bit better. And kind of just stretching it out, and it will form those cracks and patterns that you created with the paintbrush. Just have fun with it, move it around. You don't need to be too delicate. You can get some nice big cracks going. And it also depends how much of the silicate you've put on it and how much you've dried it. But I'm quite happy with that. Now I'm just gonna cut out the piece I want. I like to tear it as well, just because I'm making a organic looking shape. And how much do I want? So this is the last little bit I'll be doing, so I don't need too much. So I quite like that bit. Now you have to remember with your scraps, you can either put them in a container and store them to use for other pieces, or sometimes I like to cut out little bits of jewelry or some other forms. But this clay is now essentially contaminated. You can't reclaim that with your other clay. You can, what I like to do as well is if I have little bits like this, I'll let it dry out and then I'll break it up a bit and bisque fire it, and then I'll end up with some grog that I can add to future projects to add some texture into that. So I'll be experimenting a bit more with that at a later stage. But yeah, don't put this in your reclaim bucket. So I don't have much left of this piece to do. So I'm actually just going to be putting it on this top bit that I have left here. I'll go ahead and I'll score all these areas and apply some black clay slip, which is the same as this base clay. And then I'll go ahead and I'll layer this piece on to get my desired effect. And yeah, so that's how I get these beautiful big crack patterns in my forms. Thanks for watching. Ka kite.